Greetings, friends. I'm AK.
And I'm Laura.
And we are
the Chainsaw Girls. On today's episode, I'm so excited. This was an AK recommendation.
Yes. Can I just say first that I was a little up in the air about whether or not I wanted to recommend this one to you yet. Only because it's the very beginning of our podcast. And I was like, do I want to go there already? I mean, I did want to change it up a little from the 80s. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
We love the 80s.
We do
I will stay in the 80s. I'm totally fine with that.
Same.
But we have done a lot of 80s. So I was like, you know what? Let's make it a little more modern and let's go with something from the 2010s.
Yeah.
Still something a little, the same avenue of the other movies we've been watching that are
horror comedy.
Horror comedy, a little ridiculous at times, and it is
the 2014 hit Zombeavers.
This was also something that a lot of people have been suggesting, and I think that's really what solidified that I was going to recommend it to you.
First I have to say, before I read the IMDb summary, I have to say, I loved this movie.
I'm so glad because this is the one out of all of them that I recommended to you so far that I was like, I don't know. I think I texted you at one point and I was like, I'm struggling with your second movie for this loop. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And it was between a few of them that I still have written down, but this is what we did. So here we are.
I mean, it fits perfectly with the other movie that I suggested to you.
The Burning.
I feel like, no.
Oh.
Slumber Party Massacre 2.
Oh, yes. Oh, spoiler, that one's coming.
Spoiler. Whatever. You guys are going to know. We're going to tell you on social media anyways.
Because I thought The Burning because it's at a camp.
Oh, yeah.
Or, well, kind of.
That is similar, yeah.
On a lake.
Okay, yeah, no, that's true. That is true. And it fits with summer. We are in summer, so that makes sense. But just the silliness of it is very much like the one that I recommended to you. Okay, I'm going to read the IMDb summary from the notes. Okay. A fun weekend turns into madness and horror for a bunch of groupies looking for fun in a beaver-infested swamp. I don't know if I would call them groupies.
I was going to say, I don't know if I would call that a swamp. It's a lake.
It is a lake.
Well,
yeah, it's a lake. It's not a swamp. When I think swamp, I think like alligators.
I thought I was choosing a good time to take a sip of coffee, and I was not. That wasn't the first thing I thought of, but yes, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, right? Okay. It's directed by Jordan Rubin, who I believe this was his first film that he directed. I think he's directed maybe TV shows before this.
Okay.
But this was his first movie. It had a $1.5 million budget, and sadly, it only made $44,000 in the box office.
That's a pretty big difference.
Yes, it really is. It really is. It did come out the same year as It Follows, As Above, So Below, What We Do in the Shadows, one of my favorites ever, and the movie Clown, which was produced by one of my friends, Matt Cappuccino. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's creepy. Spring. Have you seen Spring?
Is Clown on Hulu?
It might be.
Or was it?
It was on Netflix for a long time. I don't know if it still is.
Sorry, continue.
If you like clowns and you're scared of them, it's worth the watch. Okay, and A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. And Creep. So, I mean, this is going up against some really big movies that came out that year.
I loved It Follows.
I liked it too.
So that's a big one to go against.
I also loved Creep. I loved Creep.
Oh, Creep? Yeah. Did you see the second one?
I did. I think there's another one. I think they're making another
coming?
one.
Oh.
Good.
I really liked both of those.
And I really liked As Above, So Below as well. Creepy.
You can catch Zombeavers on Amazon Prime and Tubi at the time of this recording anyway. I can't make any promises in the future.
It's perfect.
Just so you know.
And also, a little tidbit about the co-writers of this movie. Al Kaplan and John Kaplan wrote the song Clown Cafe that is featured in Terrifier 2.
Interesting.
Kind of a neat little tidbit. Yeah,
that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And I want to say Jordan Rubin also co-wrote this with them. So he co-wrote and directed, which I love when a movie is written and directed by the same person because I feel like you really get to see their vision come to life.
Yes. Sorry, if you see my eyes being a little distracted on the video version of this.
Are you watching your cat?
I'm just watching my cat, and I'm like, if you start scratching that scratching post right now, I swear to God.
Oh, it's about to happen.
Oh, he's gonna do it. He's looking at it. I tried to hide it, and he's like, "Where is it?"
It's like
he's just sniffing around. It's fine.
He's very cute. He's very fluffy. All right.
So we're gonna start the movie.
Yeah,
take it away.
Okay. So we are introduced to two fellows. Okay.
Fellows.
Two fellows. One is played by John Mayer in like a disguise.
Who I did not recognize the first time I watched this back in 2020. This was a part of my low budget horror list for Halloween in 2020. Did not realize that was John Mayer.
I didn't until I looked it up. You could tell obviously it's someone in disguise, but I had no idea who it was. He goes by the name Luke, okay? And then we have Joseph, who's played by stand-up comedian Bill Burr.
Yes.
Who's one of my favorites.
Same.
I thought he was great in this.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he had so many acting credits.
I can picture him in, I know he has a cartoon that was on, I think, Netflix maybe at one point.
F is for Family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he was also in, do you remember the show Two Guys, a Girl in a Pizza Shop?
No.
Oh my God. It's like one of those shows that I didn't think was actually real. I thought I made it up in my head, you know, because it wasn't on for very long. But we got to look it up after.
Yeah.
You guys probably know what it is if you've heard of the show. It's like, it was a very short-lived sitcom. But I digress. Okay, so we're opening up with Luke and Joseph, and they're driving down like a country road.
Yes.
And Joseph is very distracted. He's on his phone, like texting.
Don't do that.
And he's also explaining to Luke that he dated a guy once and was just kind of going on about how it was the best relationship he'd ever had because they agreed on everything.
Yeah, they were in a work truck, right? They're like they're on the job.
They're on the job, yeah.
He also says something about, I think he says, you know, he lied to his girlfriend telling her he loves her even though he doesn't. And then he's like, does that make me a bad person?
Yeah, it's like it's just a very like...
It's funny.
It's a funny, stupid conversation.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Not that would be funny to do, but
No.
it's funny.
It's just in the context. In the context of the movie. It's like clearly, and the way that Joseph, I keep wanting to call him Bill Burr, but the way that he's just telling Luke about this, you know, journey he's been on, he just seemed very like, just looking to kind of share that with a buddy. And I got the impression that Luke... it really perked his interest a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like he kind of was like, oh.
Yeah.
Right? It was great. Okay.
And you also mentioned to me this was John Mayer's film debut, right?
Yes.
What a film to debut in.
That's what I think makes this movie so fun and charming, right? So, okay, they're very distracted. And Luke says, hey, do you notice that there's a deer in the road? And Bill Burr is texting and he's like, yeah, I see it. And Luke knows that Joseph can't see it. He knows he's not paying attention, but he keeps saying like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure? And he's like, yeah. And then he slams into the deer.
Slams into it. One of my favorite parts about this scene is that I think John Mayer goes to get out and look at it and it's like demolished.
Oh, it's done. Yeah.
This deer is very dead and he comes back and he's like, he's not going to make it.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And as this happens, the toxic waste, I called it toxic waste. I don't know what it really is. It could just be chemicals, but it's in like barrels.
It's toxic waste.
It's toxic waste, okay? It reminded me of Jason Takes Manhattan, how there's just like toxic waste everywhere. Falls out of the back of their truck and rolls down into like a lake, but almost like on top of a beaver dam. Like it kind of rolls in and leaks. And there are these like 2 or 3 animatronic beavers and they're so cute.
I was dying because she wrote in her notes, I love the beavers. They're so cute. Like as she's writing down the scene, that's just a little side note. The opening credits go through. They show the barrel floating through the river.
Yeah.
Basically.
Oh, yeah, they do.
The entire time.
They were great credits. I didn't even talk about that.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens is they eventually go to this dam. But at first I was like, what is happening? And then I'm like, oh, it's telling the story of how the waste gets to the beavers. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I thought that was really cute.
Yeah.
And I actually love the opening credits. It's like a little cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it rolls down. Okay, now we know the beavers have been exposed. It's implied the beavers have been exposed. Okay. So now we're going to cut to one of our leads, Jen. She's at a gas station. She's in the bathroom. First of all, before she walks into the bathroom, or maybe it's when she comes out of the bathroom.
Yeah, when she comes out.
When she comes out of the bathroom. Okay, she's in the bathroom. She sees a text message from somebody, and I think they're saying, I'm sorry, and she says, you are a liar.
Yes.
And she's very upset. She's crying.
Yeah.
She leaves the bathroom, and this gross ass trucker he's about to go into the bathroom and he makes some kind of sexual comment as he's about to take like he's clearly like squeezing his ass cheeks together to get into the bathroom.
He's checking her out as she walks away and then you can see it in his face, the urgency hit him and he's like, oh, and he runs into the bathroom.
This is why I don't use public restrooms.
this particular reason?
Not this, but when I'm on a road trip, I will hold it for as long as possible just because I don't want to use a washroom in a gas station for this reason, because sometimes they're gross.
I try to avoid gas station bathrooms at all costs. Like a Sheetz, yes.
Agreed.
We'll go into a Sheetz or a Wawa depending on what region you're in.
Even a Speedway.
Yes.
Sometimes.
But I try to avoid gas stations at all costs. And I try to get to a rest stop or even like a McDonald's or something. Some type of fast food place that you know they'll have a public restroom that they won't.
That won't be absolutely disgusting
Hopefully.
and scary. Scary. Okay. So then she leaves the restroom and we're introduced to her best friends. I think they're her best friends. Or are they sorority sisters? Actually, I think they might be sorority sisters, right? They are. Okay. Mary and Zoe.
I just know that I hated 2/3 of them. That's all I really wrote down. I'm like 3 girls on a road trip heading to a cabin.
They are. They're going to a cabin basically because this is a no boys cabin trip.
No boys and no phones.
They don't know that. They know that, but they don't know that. Like they're kind of going along. So I'm gonna break this down. There's Mary. She is sort of a know-it-all, I would say.
Picture Velma from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, that's exactly what she looks like.
Yeah.
You're bang on. Know-it-all. She's just she's irritating and she's kind of a bitch.
Immediately, she's calling them idiots.
Yeah, she's brutal. And then we also have Zoe. And Zoe, I could not stand for at least half of the movie. I could not stand her.
My next note is Zoe is the worst.
She's not very nice.
No, immediately rude and just very crass.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Yes.
And not friendly. She doesn't seem like a girl's girl right off the bat.
She comes across like a pick-me.
Yeah.
She really does. Now, that's at this point of the movie. Okay. Yeah. There's a part where Mary is like puts on this music that is atrocious.
I think I said it sounds like when your washing machine is broken and it just keeps thumping against the wall. Picture that, like a washing machine that's off. It's off balance, so it's like doo doo doo, and also it has like the digital noises in it, like beeps and stuff.
Yeah,
that's what she was listening to.
And Zoe's in the back seat looking at pics. No idea why. But anyway, so they get to their cabin, they get to their destination, and when they walk out of the car, they notice like a floating dock in the water.
Yeah.
And Zoe says, "Oh, it's a floating." Or she says, "Oh, I don't know." She points it out.
I think she says, "What is that?
What is that?" And Mary like whips around and she's like, "It's a raft, you idiot."
Like, why are you that aggressive about this?
And I thought it was called a floating dock.
And so we had a conversation about this, and I actually looked it up because I'm like, are we crazy? And so it is called a floating dock, a floating pier, a floating jetty, which I've never heard, or a swim raft. So maybe that's what she was referring to. You know, sometimes dialect is regional, sure. But why are you calling your friends idiots?
She's terrible.
I don't like that.
I don't like Mary at all. Okay. Oh, also Zoe has a dog. A cute little, like Jack Russell, kind of like a Jack Russell Terrier, I guess.
Yes. And then we cut to, it looks like a young boy fishing while they're on this road trip.
Oh, right.
And we don't see what happens exactly, but we see that something from that thing's POV that it seems to attack this boy that's fishing.
Yes.
So something's going on.
I would say he's a man. I don't think he's a boy.
Oh, is he?
He looks a little older.
I wrote a young kid. I wrote a young boy fishing. Now I need to go find the picture of him to confirm. Whatever. Something attacks a fisherman, okay?
No, this is very true. Okay, so, and then we're back at the cabin, and this is Mary's cousin's cabin. This is where they're at. And they meet the neighbor. Okay, I believe her name is, hold please.
I want to say Phyllis.
I thought Phyllis was her shoot name.
Oh, it might be.
I think her actual name is, in the movie, it's Marion. Myrne. Is that Marion?
Myrne? Myrna? Myrna's a name.
Myrna, okay. Myrna Gregerson and her husband Winston Gregerson live next to the cabin. Okay, they're the neighbors. And she comes over to introduce herself to the two girls and to greet Mary because she knows Mary. Zoe is so rude to her in this scene.
Right off the bat, just very, I already said crass, but she's very crass. She's talking about sex.
Yeah, and but it's like for no reason. She's just being an asshole. So what I loved about this is Miss Gregerson flips the script on her and starts talking about how she has a daughter the same age as her and that she's an
mm-hmm.
So without calling Zoe, she calls her an That was great.
And I think you said she improvised those lines, right?
She did. She improvised a whole bunch of lines, which I think is also very cool.
So her real name is Phyllis Katz. That's what it was.
Phyllis Katz.
I knew
correct.
I saw Phyllis.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Nope. You're right. Absolutely. So we see kind of the scene. So we're kind of getting to know our characters and,
they're different personalities.
Yes. They go inside the cabin and immediately Jen wants to text Sam, and Sam is the boyfriend. I feel like I should mention this. Sam is the person that she's texting at the gas station.
Yes, and we're still figuring this out at this point. We don't know exactly who everyone is. We don't know what happened, but clearly something went wrong. There's a conflict in this relationship.
Right, exactly. So we find out very quickly that there's no service at the cabin.
Yes, because the other girls are pissed.
They're mad. Like Zoe and Jen are like, what? Why don't we have service?
Yeah.
And Mary's like, I told you there weren't going to be phones. I told you. Like she's just being such know-it-all.
Yeah.
And then she says there's a house line.
Yeah.
Or a landline. And Zoe goes, what's a landline? Or something like that. It's just very funny.
Yeah, which I'm sure there might be people listening right now that really don't know what a landline is.
True.
Very true.
Yeah, very true.
But in 2014, I feel like with their ages, they would know what a landline was.
I agree. I think it was just like, yeah. It's crazy to me that Zoe's like confused by that, but she's also a bit of so. So there's no service in the cabin. They're kind of pissed about it. Whatever. It's not the end of the world. Is it the next morning or is it still the same day? I don't know if that was very clear.
I'm not clear on that.
Okay, so let's just say it's the same day. They decide they're going to go for a swim.
Yes.
They all get in their bikinis. They're walking out to the lake to get, some suntans. And immediately Zoe removes her bikini top.
Yes, they're going out to the raft or floating dock.
Right. To tan and to enjoy themselves.
It's out.
Having a good time.
Awesome.
Girls trip. Love it. So when they're on the little raft, this I thought was very strange to me. I love animals. You know this.
Yes.
I would never, ever decide to go look at a beaver's dam. It just wouldn't happen.
But you also are a logical person. And when they see this beaver dam and they're like, let's go investigate. And they're like going up to it.
They're really excited to go check out the beaver dam.
To me, and this is coming from a white person, I see that and I go, that's white people. I'm not that white, but I am white. But I don't do that.
So accurate.
Especially a wild animal, I am not approaching it. I'm going the other way. Even if I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cute, but I'm going to be backing up.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm not with a wild animal.
No way. Even
domesticated animals, I'm not going to walk up to someone's dog and just try to touch it without making sure that's okay to do. You just never know.
No, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. So this whole scene where they were like, oh my God, let's go look at these beavers. And they go over there and there's like neon green splatter kind of all over this beaver dam. And the conversation they have is pretty funny. Jen is like, oh, I don't know what that is. And I think one of them is like, oh, maybe it's beaver piss.
She says, I think it's green beaver urine. And then the other ones, I think Mary is like, yeah, it kind of looks like it. I'm like, what do you mean it kind of looks like it?
Like, I've never seen an animal pee out neon green, but all right. And then one of my favorite lines of it is she goes, well, why would they pee all over their house? And one of them goes, they don't live in the dam. Like, she says it's so rude.
You already know who it is. It's Mary.
Yes.
Because she calls her an idiot again. I wrote down examples of Mary calling her friends idiots. That was another one. She goes, they don't live in the dam, you idiot.
I didn't know. I don't know anything about beavers. I wouldn't even know that. Well, first of all, we wouldn't be investigating it anyways. But I don't know. I'm not well versed on beavers either.
Right off the bat, I was like, oh, they don't? Yeah, I guess I never thought about it. It's just not something I think about on a daily basis.
No, agreed. That's just, and Mary, again, being like a know-it-all. I get the vibe from Mary that like she thinks she's like the leader of this group, but like she's the worst leader ever.
Yeah, and I should also mention, it's a little bit of foreshadowing. There's a reason why we really don't like Mary, and it's coming soon. So it's not just what has happened so far. She gives us a bad impression right off the bat, but there are other things where we're like, wow, okay, you are an
terrible. Yeah, exactly. Okay, she's definitely not a girl's girl. You're right about that. So the girls then we're introduced to a hunter.
Yes, I kept writing in my notes, creepy guy.
Because he is. He comes across as very creepy.
Yeah.
His name is Smith, and he wants to make sure that the girls know it's spelled with a Y.
Yeah.
Like, we don't care about you that much, Smith, okay? We're not going back and writing about you in our diaries.
making sure it's a Y instead of an I is so funny, and I make fun of it. Meanwhile, my name is Allison with a Y.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it is.
But I mean,
funny.
it's a sign of the times. Anyway.
Okay. So Smith with Y, he comes across very creepy. He's sort of like that, you know, you're going to a cabin in the woods, like trope. You're going to the cabin in the woods and you run into like the creepy random guy that lives in the forest. Sort of the vibe.
This movie has a lot of those tropes in it.
So many.
Like coming out right away. Even earlier you mentioned Zoe, she's looking at pics. I don't know why. I feel like they were making her like the promiscuous one right off the bat.
Right.
Which is a huge trope, right?
Yes, absolutely. And so, yeah. So, and then he says to them, you should really, he says to Zoe, you should really cover up. And then the other two girls are kind of like, and he's like, no, all three of you should cover up. Implying that it's inappropriate for them to be in their bikinis having a good time.
Yeah.
Like, right off, Smith.
Yeah, and he starts, at first he saves him from this bear. So you think like, did we mention that already or did we not say that?
We did not say
that,
no.
So yes, there's a bear, he fires his gun, scares the bear away. So at first you're like, cool, he's saving them. And then he just like keeps going on and he's just making it worse and worse. And you're like, oh, now you're making me uncomfortable.
Yes.
He's like he says something like, with your weird little tattoos and your belly's exposed or something creepy. Ugh. I don't know why the word belly, especially in that context, I'm like, ew.
Creeps me out too.
Yes.
It was super creepy and just off, Smith. Okay, you're gross. And the girls are all kind of like weirded out by the interaction.
Yeah.
I would say especially Jen. Jen is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And Jen seems uncomfortable right from the beginning of the movie. I was gonna say that too. I feel like it's important to note that she's a bit cautious. She comes across as like cautious and maybe a little damaged.
She's going through it.
She's going through it. Exactly. Okay. So now we're back in the cabin. It's nighttime and the girls are hanging out, having some drinks. And I wrote in my notes that I think it's Jen, I can't remember exactly, but somebody walks in with a bowl of popcorn and it is the smallest bowl I've ever seen distributed to a group of people. Like, yeah, it's so small and they're all like, ooh, yay, popcorn. I would have eaten that in like 5 seconds.
Right. Who doesn't, if you're gonna use a bowl at all, you're gonna dump the whole bag into a giant bowl.
Like, what are they, there's a bowl shortage?
Maybe
like, I'm like,
you know, maybe they didn't have bowls in the cabin. That was the only bowl they had. But even then, I'd be eating out of the bag.
No, agreed. 100%. Yeah. Okay. Anyways.
But maybe I don't know. I'm the type of person, if we're, especially people sharing, that whole bag is gone.
It's gone.
I'm going to be honest. The whole bag is gone by myself.
Me too. Oh my God. Those avocado chips, gone. They were so done in one sitting. Okay. So they're all sitting there and Zoe's like, let's play truth or dare.
I wrote down the girls are playing a real gross game of Would You Rather.
It's
Truth and Dare also. They did both.
They did
or
both.
Tried to.
And Jen, I think, picks truth. So Zoe asks her a question and it's so vulgar and gross. Yeah. I didn't write it down exactly, but it implies like either having sex with your dad or it's really weird.
That was the Would You Rather. I'm not even going to repeat it because I was like, ew.
I was like, why would you ask that?
Yeah.
It's gross.
But that is how I think a lot of people play Would You Rather, but it's just funny because of course she picks an option and they're both like, ew, why would you pick that?
Yeah.
Like both options are terrible. But whenever people try to do that to me, I usually won't answer. Like especially that one that she gave.
I
was like,
answer
no,
that.
I'm not answering that.
I don't owe you anything, man.
Yeah.
I'm not answering that. But the scene is important because it's implied that there was like some kind of truth or dare situation where Jen and Mary made out or kissed. Oh,
because Zoe says, you want to play truth or dare? You two can make out again.
Yes.
And then I think Jen is like, ew.
No, Jen's more like, oh, it was just fun. Like Jen kind of plays it off like it's not a big deal. And Mary is sort of like, oh, but you seem to be enjoying it. And they're kind of like joking and laughing, but there is sort of some foreshadowing there, I think.
Yeah, I thought one of them seemed offended. Maybe Mary was like, it was Mary. You enjoyed it.
It was Mary, for sure. Like, she's all like, she can't believe that Jen's not into her. Like, take it easy, Mary. Okay, just take it easy. So then, they're in the cabin, having a good time, drinking, and all of a sudden, they start hearing, like, loud noises.
Yeah. Someone starts banging at the door.
Yes, and there's, like, banging from maybe, they can't tell where it's coming from, but Zoe gets up, and she's like, I'm gonna see what it is. And the girls are like, oh, maybe don't do that. And Zoe's like, I don't care. And she like walks outside with a bottle of whatever she's drinking. And she just walks into a darker, like, you know, into the darkness.
Yeah.
Essentially. And Mary and Jen are on the like porch.
Yeah.
And they're like freaking out.
Yeah, I think Zoe says something like, "Come on, serial killer, there's a bunch of horny girls in here that haven't had sex in a long time," or something. Like, just laying out every trope, basically.
Right. Which, like, you know, that kind of is funny.
Yeah.
Like, I remember being a teenager and just being, like, obnoxious.
But also, I'm not taunting a stranger in the woods.
Not a chance.
No.
I've seen enough horror movies in my life that, no. First of all, I wouldn't even be at the cabin, but...
Also, I would not open the door if I was at the cabin.
No.
And I'm not going to walk out on the porch, but... This movie does just explore a lot of
all the tropes.
Stereotypes.
Yes, all the tropes, all the cliches. So, I love this scene because it was a fun jump scare. But, so we don't know what's happening. And then all of a sudden, we're introduced to our boys. So, Tommy and Buck are the two, right? And then Sam.
Yes.
And they all scare the girls. So, they show up at the cabin and they all scare the girls. And Mary is really mad about the whole situation because she didn't want boys.
Right.
She was like kind of like, she was the one that was like, no boys, no boys.
This was supposed to be a trip for Jen to get over Sam.
Yes.
And we kind of find that out here.
Right. And we also find out that Zoe invited the guys.
Zoe invited. I've been good up until this point. Anyway, Zoe invited the guys and we find out who was with who basically.
Yes.
So Zoe is, I mean, we find out in a pretty, wild scene, a pretty graphic, maybe not graphic, but we'll get to it.
Yeah.
So Zoe is with Buck, who to me, okay, I made this comparison when we rewatched and you were like, "Oh my gosh, you're blowing my mind," that they look like the Scooby-Doo crew.
Yes, I did not even catch that, but you are bang on.
I think Jen and Sam are the ones that are excluded, but I would say Zoe by default is Daphne. Buck looks like Shaggy. You said I think he reminds you of Matthew Lillard.
I thought it was Matthew Lillard's kid. He looked so much like him, his mannerisms and everything.
I mentioned Mary looks like Velma to me. She has the glasses, the hair, and then Tommy would be Fred. He's blonde.
He's blonde, and he's kind of like a quarterback or something. He's got like one of those Letterman jackets. Blonde,
Yeah. So Sam and, I don't know, Sam can be Scooby or something.
Well, Sam's a turd, so he can be a turd.
So the pairs are off because Zoe is with Buck, Mary is with Tommy, and then Jen and Sam are clearly breaking up because Sam did something that we're trying to figure out what.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what's happened.
Because the reason we realize that they're together is because Jen and Sam are awkwardly sitting in the living room while there's, of course, very loud sex going on in the rooms next to them.
Absurdly loud.
And they show them together in each room, and it's comical the way that they're having sex.
The way that Mary and Tommy are having sex, like she's like air humping up and he's like humping down.
He's doing the worm, like on top of
he's
her.
fully doing the worm, and it's so loud. Like they're screaming, and then they cut to Buck and Zoe, and Buck and they're like doggy style. Like he is hitting her so hard.
And she also, maybe I'm misremembering, but did she kind of look like not even that into it? Or
yeah, like I mean, would you like that? Did not look enjoyable.
But
and he was yelling out terrible, like stupid ass things too.
I forget what he said at first, but I know he said, "You're too hot for me," which I was like, true.
Yeah, accurate. But like, and we have to point out too that Buck always has a hat on. When he's introduced, he's wearing like one of those like it reminds me of Fargo, like the hat, winter hats with the
it's like a winter hunter's hat. Like I picture someone hunting in that hat.
Yes,
it's like the ear flaps,
outdoorsy.
Yeah,
but he wears hats throughout the movie. Okay,
every single scene, even in water, and that had to have been on purpose.
For sure, yeah. And even in the cartoon in the beginning, he's wearing a hat.
Yeah.
So they're having this loud, comical sex, which again, another trope. It reminded me so much of the other movie that we're gonna cover. And Sam and Jen are like sitting and they're kind of like, you know, Jen's uncomfortable. Sam probably wants to get it on. And it's now revealed that Sam kissed another girl. There's a photo of this, but you can't see the girl. You can just see her hair. And it's kind of like dark and curly. And you can't see her face. It's like a side profile.
Yes. So Sam cheated on Jen, but we just don't know with who.
Yes, exactly. And so they're kind of having an uncomfortable exchange. It's uncomfortable. He wants to get with her. She doesn't want to get with him. She's pretty pissed off about it. And she decides to go have a shower.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, before that, he's like, there's a point where she has to physically like push him away. I think she punches him or slaps him, right?
She does, yeah.
And then I don't know, he starts to try to kiss her in the doorway, and she
wait, you're jumping ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You.
Well, okay, she does do that, but I think he like comes onto her and she just blasts off on him. She's like, no, slaps him in the face. And then he says, do you feel better now? And she hauls off on him again. I was like, yes, girl. Yeah. Okay, sorry, I just had to get that in.
But no, tell the next part because I don't remember all the details. I just know what she does to him. And it's like, you almost think they're going to start making out. Oh, because she says, he goes to grab her and she's like, I'll scream. And he's like, join the club. And I was like, true.
Yeah.
Because everyone's already screaming.
Loud. Yeah.
Everyone's already screaming in this cabin. And then they start making out.
They start making out. And you're like, oh, okay, maybe she forgives him.
Yeah. And then she knees him in the balls.
It's great. It is fantastic. He falls down. Ouch. She goes to have a shower.
Yes. Now she's in the shower.
So she's getting ready to hop in and she hears like a thumping sound in the bathtub behind the shower curtain. And she's kind of like, what is that? And she's listening. And then she opens up the shower curtain and it is revealed to be a Zombeaver.
Zombeaver, the first one that we're seeing.
Animatronics.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It looks great.
And they're rabid. They're like just going nuts.
And that's what she thinks at first. They all kind of think so. So she runs out of the bathroom and she runs to Sam and she's freaking out. And Sam is like, okay, one thing I liked about the scene is like Sam looked concerned and then the rest of the crew comes in. And the only one that really seemed irritated by the whole situation was Buck.
Yeah.
He was like, why are you crying on vacation? Like, he's just insufferable.
Yeah.
But they decide that they're all going to go and check out what's happening in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And Sam is kind of leaving the crew. And this is the part where you said they look like Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
Because they're in like a huddled group.
I think because also in my notes, I started writing, the gang goes to investigate. And I'm like, oh, literally like Scooby-Doo in the gang. That's what it looks like.
It does. And you see Sam is sort of in front and he's got a baseball bat, but he's very scared. So Tommy is like, oh, this. And he grabs the bat and Tommy just goes for it.
Yeah.
They open up, and the reason I loved the scene so much is that they're all supporting each other, at least at this moment. Like, they're all trying to figure out what's going on. And I did appreciate that. Yeah. Because they seem like genuine friends.
Even though Buck is irritated that he's getting cock-blocked, but other than that...
Oh, he's brutal. So they open up the bathroom, and as every horror movie goes, the Zombeaver's not there.
Yeah. Why would it be there?
It was a nice slow build-up, too.
Yeah.
But it was gone. It's not there.
Like, logistically, where could it have gone? We don't know.
We don't know, but we find out.
Yeah.
Buck walks in, and he just starts being you know, he's like, look at me in the bathroom with no beaver. Like, he's just being a... And then out of the, what would you call it, like the cupboards underneath the sink?
Yeah.
The Zombeaver jumps out and attacks Buck. And Buck gets out. Buck, like, scrambles. And you think for a second he's going to get scratched. Yeah. But he doesn't. He hauls ass out of the bathroom. And Tommy comes in and starts beating the absolute out of this zombie.
With the bat.
With the bat.
Yeah.
Like, and the Zombeaver's not going down.
Yes.
Like, so he's just, like, smashing him. And he keeps, obviously, he's a zombie. Doesn't die. And then to the point that then Tommy just, it's kind of hilarious. He just keeps going. Till finally the Zombeaver stops moving. Yeah. And throw it in a trash can. It's outside. They throw it in a trash bag and throw it on the porch.
Yeah, they threw it on the porch.
And they all kind of come together to discuss what happened. And the scene is just so stupid to me because they're all obviously like shooken up a little bit by the fact that it could have had rabies.
Yes. Which makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And Mary makes a comment and says, well, hopefully nobody got scratched because the hospital is 30 miles from here. Yeah. Important.
Yeah. They did a good job setting that up, up how far everyone is or things like a hospital. Mm-hmm. And the scene where you find out that there's not only is she saying this is a phone-free vacation, there is no cell service because of where they are located. They did a good job eliminating the cell phones from the equation, which you kind of have to do in modern horror movies.
You really do. And I do appreciate any horror movie that can find a clever way to do that. And usually no service works.
Yeah,
dead zones, right? They do exist. So it's it's plausible. So they're all trying to decide, like, they're all kind of freaked out. Buck is so annoying in this scene. He says something like about being horny and 6'5" or something. It's so he's just so lame.
He definitely seems like the type of person that in his Tinder profile, the very first thing it says is that he's 6'5".
Oh,
allegedly.
Yes.
It's always allegedly.
Allegedly, 100%. And Jen is obviously very shaken up by this whole experience, and she isn't convinced it's rabies.
Yeah.
Jen seems to have she hasn't admitted that, but she definitely is the most freaked out of all of them.
Yes.
And asks to sleep with Mary.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yes. And it's funny because you see Tommy kind of look at Mary, his girlfriend, like, okay, I guess we're not gonna have any more sex tonight.
Which I feel like if it was Buck instead of Tommy, Buck would be like, oh, sweet, 2 girls in my bed.
Well, he does suggest that they all... Yes, he says, let's all have an orgy.
Oh, that's right. I didn't write it down in my notes, but I do remember that now.
He does. He says something like, it's a safe orgy. Let's all do it.
Let's have a safety orgy.
Yeah. Of course, Buck suggests that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, next morning.
Yes, Jen is even more concerned now because they're going to the lake, and when they walk out on the porch, the blanket is there with blood on it, but the beaver is gone.
It's clawed itself out of the trash can.
I think it's like a bag.
Sorry, I keep saying trash can.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say trash bag. It's a white trash bag.
And
yes.
What they say really makes a lot of sense to me. I'm like, that's completely logical.
I agree.
Everyone's like, oh, an animal came to get it.
Yeah, we're in the woods. Like there's miles and miles of woods around there.
Yeah, that happens even around me. I'm not in the woods, but one time I saw like a poor little dead bird in my backyard or something, and I'm like, oh no, I have to take care of that. And then like 10 minutes later, it was gone.
Oh yeah, something definitely took it.
100%. Or it was a zombie and it just never came back to attack me, thank goodness.
Okay.
But that happens all the time. Like,
okay, no, I have to tell you something. To go along with this.
Yeah.
One time, I mean, this happens often, but the Blade and I, it was like 2:00 in the morning, and we were like, man, we could really go for some cookies.
Where is this going?
So we ordered insomnia cookies.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're open till like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
But we were very excited for them, and we both fell asleep on our beanbag chairs. And then in the morning, I opened up the front door to leave, and I saw like the box on my steps. Everything was gone.
Destroyed.
Like everything was
Was it like a paper bag or something?
It was weird. They just dropped it off in the paper carton that it comes in.
Oh, like the cardboard box?
Yeah.
Oh, destroyed.
But no, the best part was the container was perfectly intact, but all the cookies were eaten.
What do you mean? Was it open? I mean, what do you mean intact?
Like it wasn't ripped apart.
Like they carefully peeled back the sticker?
I don't know.
Did they not seal it at all?
I don't think it was even sealed.
Because there's supposed to be at least like a sticker on it.
It was as if somebody walked along, opened up the box, ate all the cookies. But I'm sure it was an animal.
What if it wasn't an animal?
And maybe it was a zombie. Maybe it was the zombie.
What if it was a human? And they were like, they just carefully, because an animal's not...
I don't know.
I have questions. Anyway.
I had questions too, but I didn't want to dig into it because I was like, I don't even want to know.
It's too late.
It's too late. Who cares?
But it made perfect sense that you leave a dead animal on the porch, something is going to come get it in the woods, especially.
Yeah, agreed. And but Jen doesn't think so.
She doesn't think so, which I'm like, why don't you think so? What makes you think this is something else? I guess the green beaver urine is probably an indication something weird is going on.
Well, and also how hard it was to kill the beaver.
Yeah,
it was really, really hard to kill it, and the feet there's like little feet prints from the trash bag. They look like they kind of, I don't know, they almost look like bird feet prints, but I think that's what beavers, their feet prints look like.
They have to. Because they have to be beaver footprints. I'm sure they looked into what they actually look like.
Yeah, they were like stamped them, or they took like a little beaver and they're like, we're just going to use you as a stamp. So they decide they're all going for a swim. And now we're going out to the lake. Jen is like, no, I am not going in the lake. You guys go. I'm going to tan on the shore.
Yeah.
So...
I feel like you would relate to that because you're not getting in a lake.
Oh, I would never get in the lake.
You also wouldn't be in the woods, but...
No, but I would definitely... If you said to me, I have this great idea, Laura, I really want to go to, like, Camp Crystal Lake where they filmed it. There's a cabin there. It would be a really cool experience. I would probably go to that.
For that, yeah,
I would never go in the lake.
I also would not get in the lake, I don't think.
No.
I have gotten in lakes to, like, kayak, but I don't want to swim.
Kayaking?
Yeah, I have.
Oh my God.
It's a big thing in Michigan. We're surrounded by the Great Lakes, so like usually if you go on a little staycation or mini getaway, you're going to a lake.
I did whitewater rafting once.
Oh. And that's way more hardcore.
Yeah, this was, I don't know, a long time ago, but the best part about it was I made a decision before I even got in the raft that it was every man for himself. And the raft, like obviously it's whitewater rafting, and it tips and everyone flies out except for me. And I remember, like, my ex-boyfriend at the time, I'm pretty sure he tried to get in the raft and I was, like, not helping. I was like, nope.
You are Rose from Titanic.
I am Rose.
You're like, sorry, you're not going to fit on this raft. You're, like, hitting him with the oar. Sorry, you don't fit.
No, but I was so scared. It was like fight or flight took over and I was so scared.
Did you have a life jacket on?
I did, but okay. I was terrified.
That is terrifying.
So, I don't know why I would do that. I'd never do it again.
I felt a little stressed kayaking, and then I realized how chill kayaking can be in a lake that's not, moving rapidly like whitewater rafting is.
Right.
So that gave me a little more comfort. Also, I don't even know if this might be a different flotation boat, but wait, what is it called? Is it a boat? Is it a type of
device?
Device? No flotation? Never mind. We're not going to get into the logistics of this. I don't know if it's a kayak, but the ones where you sit in and like your body is in it.
That's
completely.
a kayak.
Well, the kayaks that I've been in are more, I guess, like canoes. Where you just kind of sit on it. But it is a kayak. What? I don't know what qualifies. I don't know when a kayak becomes a canoe. All I know
I'm not
is
a boating person. I don't know.
If my body is trapped inside and it can flip upside down and you can't get out, I don't even know if that's a thing.
But no, they do. They teach you how to flip it with a kayak so that you're comfortable going under and flipping it.
I don't like that.
I would never do that.
I don't like that at all.
I'm not getting in a boat anyways, but maybe... No. Okay.
Anyway, they're just on the floating dock / swim raft.
Well, Sam and Mary are on the floating dock.
Right.
And Buck, Zoe, and Tommy are in the water, and they're just having a ball.
And Jen is on the shore.
They're having a great time, and they're trying to encourage Jen to come into the water, and she's very hesitant. We cut to Sam and Mary on the floating dock, and they're having a conversation. And it's now revealed that the girl that was kissing Sam was Mary.
Yes, we find out that that's who he cheated on her with. He also does something really stupid. He, like, pokes her. He says something about, like, say that to my finger, and he, like, goes to poke her. I thought it was sexual, but I don't even think it was. I think he was just trying to touch her, and she's like, are you dumb?
Yeah, because she says, it's not like it meant anything. And the camera...
Oh, it was sexual. Never mind.
The camera kind of closes in on him, and it just looks to him like it did mean something, maybe. It's very,
It probably was sexual.
Because then he does. He, like, pokes her a little bit. But you're right. It wasn't like he caressed her. It was like when a little boy, like, pinches you. And, you know what I mean? It was like that. And she's like, what are you stupid? And Tommy sees this.
He very subtly notices it. Yeah.
Yes.
But he doesn't, he plays it off.
Yeah, it's like being, he's like a private detective.
He's being very observant.
He's picking up on cues.
Yeah.
Okay.
The little things that start adding up, that if you were to call it out in that moment, they would go, what? You're crazy. We're friends.
Gaslight. Yeah.
They'd be like, what? He just poked me. Like, yeah, I don't know. It was weird, but it didn't mean anything. Because, that alone probably doesn't mean anything.
Right.
But that's a great example of one of those little things that you keep in the back of your mind because they start adding up.
They do. Mm-hmm. Yes. Tommy, very observant. So Buck and Tommy and Zoe at this point are really trying to get Jen to come in the water. And so Jen reluctantly is like, okay, I guess I'll come in.
Yeah. But as she starts coming in, she doesn't even get in the water all the way, right? Something starts happening.
She's it's up to her ankles. It's a little bit past her ankles.
Yeah.
Maybe. And she says something just swam past me.
Right.
She feels something brush against her leg. And the kids in the water, they're like, oh my God, okay. And they all start mocking her and pretending to drown.
Especially Buck.
Buck is really messing with her, but so is Tommy. He's being a too.
Yeah.
Like, they're just being like stupid teenagers.
Yeah. And then Buck gets pulled under.
He gets pulled under, and you can't tell right away if he's joking or not. And I love that. I thought that was very fun.
Yeah, because they're all mocking her. Why wouldn't they think that he's joking? Mm-hmm. But then we see blood kind of appear in the water.
Talk about the blood, because I didn't even notice.
I do have to say the CGI blood here is not very good, but it's funny with the charm of the movie. Like, with what the movie is, I feel like you accept it.
Well, yeah, because when Buck comes up from the water, his foot floats up with him.
Oh, yeah.
And he, like, grabs it, and he's like, ah! He's like screaming.
He pulls his foot out and he's like, yeah, it's so funny and ridiculous. But as they're swimming away, there's an overhead shot and the CGI blood, you can tell it's just like a pool. They just made it red around him and it's following him in such an unnatural way.
I didn't even notice until you pointed it out. I didn't even notice it.
And then they get on the dock and Buck is laying on the dock and, you know, his foot is severed. Blood is spurting out onto the swim raft / floating dock, and it doesn't look great. It's one of the reasons I'm not crazy about CGI, especially CGI blood.
Yeah.
But once again, with this type of movie, I'm very forgiving of that.
It's fun. It doesn't break it.
It's a fun movie. It's a silly movie anyway. So yeah, I'm not like, oh, this takes me out of it. Like we already saw Zombeavers at this point. I'm okay with a little CGI blood.
Okay, but I have to point out something that happens in this scene. So, Tommy and Sam and Mary, they're all on the floating dock. Zoe's on it too. And Buck is bleeding. And Tommy goes, I need something to tie to stop the blood. And Zoe goes, oh, here. And she goes to take her bikini top off. And he goes, it's too thin or something. Yeah. I thought that was so funny.
Like it's too small.
Yeah. Like it was just like, I don't know. I just thought it was very absurd. That she's like, oh, here's my bikini top. I thought it was pretty funny.
But also that makes sense to me.
I know.
You can easily tie that. Why wouldn't you use that?
I agree.
Unless you have a belt.
I think they use something and they tie up his leg. Jen is on the shore and Jen is freaking out. Jen is like, I need to go call for help. So she runs to the cabin, grabs the phone, and the phone's dead.
And we find out that the beavers, well, it's assumed because they just show that the phone lines have been ripped out.
And there's claw marks on the on the outside.
Yeah, so we know it's the beavers that did it. The
beavers disconnected the phone lines, okay? And then Jen discovers there is a Zombeaver in the kitchen with her. She grabs a knife and a fight ensues, okay? And she gets scratched.
Yeah, she gets scratched, and I think, do we know at this point that someone else got scratched, or do we not know yet? Because I wrote down that they did, but maybe we don't know that.
Jen was scratched. I don't know if Tommy was scratched yet. Tommy might have got scratched in the lake.
I wrote down that Tommy gets scratched.
He might have got scratched while he was swimming away from them.
Maybe. Either way, I mean...
You get the picture.
I don't think it's a huge spoiler.
No. So. Okay, so... We cut back to the raft, and everyone's freaking out because here come the Zombeavers. You can see them in the water.
Yes.
And they're like swimming towards them.
I will say, I'm going to let you walk them through this scene because when we rewatched it, she's like, you have to fast forward this, you have to fast forward. And I didn't know when it was going to happen. So should we give them a heads up for people who want to know a heads up? Well, no, because like... We'll just go through it.
We're just gonna go
through
it.
But I'm fast forwarding it like by 10 seconds or whatever Prime lets you do. And I'm like, when is it gonna happen? And you're like, no! And I'm like, I don't know when it's gonna happen. Did it already happen?
I know, I had my ears and my eyes plugged and I was going, look at
So I didn't get to rewatch this. We're talking about a lot of things actually in this movie episode that we talked about in our intro episode that we don't like. So there's like the water.
Yeah, but I loved
the woods.
Gave it a shot.
Dogs
dying.
Yeah.
I was okay.
It's gonna happen.
So before I watched the movie, I Googled it because there's a website called Does the Dog Die in the End?
Yeah.
And it's so helpful because I've mentioned this in previous episodes. I don't like when animals die in movies.
Yeah. A lot of people feel very strongly about that, even if it does look a little, not realistic.
I mean, when we were watching Kong, Skull Island, it was like within the first half hour, they go to this island and the hunters or whatever start killing all the CG dinosaurs, and I told the Blade I couldn't keep watching it, and I left.
Holy.
I felt so bad. He's like, they don't even look real. What are you talking about? Yeah. And I was just like, no, it's not fair.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
They don't deserve this. They don't know what they're doing.
Holy shit. I think I just not dissociate, but I just disconnect my mind from that because like sometimes when anything, people or animals getting killed looks too realistic, that's gonna bother me. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, like we're watching a bunch of people get murdered in like a funny way. It sounds weird to say that, but it's Zombeavers. Come on.
Silly. Yeah, it's silly.
And so like I don't know, I just am able to disconnect that in my brain to where it doesn't affect me that same way.
Right. I mean, I was uncomfortable when the deer got hit in the beginning.
But it's two different perspectives.
Yes, exactly. So they're on this raft, and we forgot to mention that the dog is on the raft with them, the floating dog. The dog's on there. And they're like, we need to create a diversion or we're never going to be able to swim to shore. And without hesitation, Sam grabs the little terrier dog.
Who is Zoe's dog, by the way.
It's Zoe's dog. And throws him into the water. And all the beavers, like, jump on him. And they eat him.
Yeah.
And a bunch of blood comes out.
Yeah. That is wild to me. Just the concept.
Oh, I would kill Sam. No, that would be it. I don't care. I would literally... If someone threw Didymus or Toby into, I would push them in.
I was just about to say, my natural reaction would be you shove them into the lake too. Like, all right, you're next.
Yeah.
How dare you?
You want to throw my dog in as a distraction? You're going to be the distraction now. And now there's one less of us.
Yeah.
Let's go. So anyways, the dog dies. And it is pretty funny because you can tell it's a fake dog.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's a real dog and then they cut to a fake dog. So it wasn't as traumatic as most dog deaths are on screen, like Turner and Hooch.
I think them showing a very obviously fake dog also probably helps because if it's just off screen, you're imagining that real dog. And I think it actually kind of makes it worse.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So they swim to shore and they rush into the house. But as this is all happening, Jen is fighting with a beaver in the kitchen and she climbs onto the kitchen island. And there's a shot of her legs like spread open and the beaver is like crawling towards her crotch.
Yes.
And she's trying to stab. I mean, the visual.
It's so... It feels
it's so sexually... It's like sexually suggestive, but it's so funny.
You have a beaver charging toward a beaver. It's basically...
Yes.
By the way, I don't think we mentioned there are so many beaver puns in this movie and vagina references. I mean, how could you not really with a movie like this? But... This is also an alternate cover for Zombeavers. It's just black and red. It's like a silhouette, but it's a girl in a bikini, I think, with maybe holding a knife, and the beaver is like going toward her legs that are wide open.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we'll post it on Instagram.
I love that.
The beaver's also ripped in half while it's crawling toward her, so it's very clearly not just a rabid beaver.
That's right. It's the beaver that was in the garbage trash. It's the same beaver.
In the garbage trash. But that's correct. In the garbage and the trash.
And the group runs in and they stab... I think Tommy stabs the Zombeaver.
In the head. Or
it's like in the neck.
Yeah.
And the beaver's still alive.
Yes.
And it seems like Sam is the only one that immediately realizes that this is a zombie.
Yes.
And he takes a knife and just starts stabbing the beaver over and over in the head until it stops moving.
Yes.
Which I thought... At least one of them is figuring it out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And now they're back in the living room, you know, they're reconvening and discussing what just happened, right?
Yes. And Zoe is, rightfully so, very pissed at Sam.
And this is where you started to change your opinion of her.
I did.
Because you see a layer. She does have a soul. She's not just always making sex jokes and having no tact.
Right.
You know, she does actually care about something.
Yeah, and it made me feel like, she loves her dog, and she obviously does. She was very upset. She starts fighting with Sam, and because he says, something about I threw the dog, and she was like, no, you threw my dog.
Yeah.
It was just,
it's very true.
It was very true. So you're seeing this other side of Zoe, but then Mary is like coming to Sam's defense a little bit, and this is where it is now revealed. Zoe just straight up says, like,
I think she says, oh wait, I wrote down something, but that's not what she said. Never mind.
Basically, she says that Mary is the one that kissed Sam, and everybody knows.
Yes, and everybody knows it, yeah.
Except Tommy. Tommy goes, well, I didn't know.
It was so sad. I really felt for him in that moment.
I felt for him too. It really felt like a real moment.
Yeah.
You know, like this could really happen.
Yes, because Zoe's anger is at a peak, and that's when you start just saying,
yeah. Like, you're just like, you know what?
And he's doing this and she's doing that.
I also don't know if Jen and Zoe are actually close friends. They're sorority sisters.
So that's what I wrote down, because I'm like, hold up, bitch. You knew all along and you're going on this trip with Jen and you know that Mary is the one that cheated on her. Like, what?
Yeah. So I don't know. At this point, I really did question whether or not Jen and Zoe were very close.
They can't be.
I don't think they are.
And if they were, they're not going to be now. I know you have empathy for, or a little bit of sympathy for Zoe at this point, but I still don't like her.
Well, I also think I don't think she was thinking at all about Jen and how this was going to affect Jen.
Oh, no.
She wanted to hurt Mary, and Mary's her best friend. And the fact that Mary sided with Sam and Sam killed Zoe's dog, I honestly can see why. She's like, you're supposed to be my best friend, and you don't have my back, and he killed my dog, and you made out with him.
And she wanted to hurt Sam. It was hurting both of the people that she was pissed off at in that moment.
Yes. And so I'm not saying it's right at all by any stretch of the imagination. However, I do understand where all the rage came from.
Yeah, it made sense to me. It felt natural. Also want to mention, Buck was sleeping on the couch holding his foot at this time.
The visual
just sleeping with his severed foot.
Because they put it in a Ziploc bag with ice.
Yeah.
And he's sleeping with it, yes.
Yes.
So that whole scene kind of unfolds, and Jen is obviously like, realizes now that she's been very betrayed by not only her boyfriend, but one of her best friends.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting scene because there's, you know, the gravity of the situation, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's Zombeavers everywhere. But they have to work together. Yeah. They have to. Mm-hmm. So Zoe, Tommy, and Buck are going to get into the car and they're going to drive to get help. That's the plan. Yeah. And Mary's very distraught about this. She doesn't want Tommy to go, but Tommy's like, I'm going. Yes. I'm taking Buck. And Zoe's like, I'm coming too. This is also why my opinion started to change with Zoe. Because Tommy's like, I'm going to take Buck. And Zoe stands up and she's like, I'm going too. And they're like, no, like, don't go. And she's like, no, I have to go. Because she's dating Buck and she's loyal to Buck.
That's her man.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, so she has some loyalty.
As goofy as he is, that is her man.
Right. And she does care. Okay. Like, you're seeing a side of her. Like, there's a survival instinct in her. But she obviously cares about her people. Yeah. And her dog. They
also cut to the neighbors at this point. I really want to mention this because I wrote down the quote from the old man. So it's who what was her name again? Myrna?
Myrna.
We think her name was Myrna.
We can just refer to them as Mr. and Mrs. Wait for it. Gregerson.
Okay, so the Gregersons are trying to spy. They hear noises. Mm-hmm. And the lady that we met earlier, she is peeking through the window. She can't really see what's going on, but she knows something's going on. And the man, her husband, I assume, that's sitting in the chair, whatever he's doing, watching TV, reading a paper, I don't know. He says, and I quote, "It's just those kids scissoring each other to Lady Gaga." And I had to write that down. And then he reaches down and he pets where his golden retriever was just sitting.
An older golden retriever, too.
But he's unknowingly petting a Zombeaver instead.
What a great shot. I love that.
And he doesn't know. He's just like, oh.
Yeah, and now it's implied. Like, obviously, she's about to go down to the poor Gregersons. Yeah. Okay, so Tommy and Zoe and Buck are driving and they're trying to get out of Dodge, right? And as they're driving down the street, they come across
a dam in the middle of the road. The Zombeavers have built a whole ass dam to block them from getting out of the area.
Which is so funny because it just makes me think that these Zombeavers are really smart.
They are. Well, they ripped the phone lines out.
They knew.
And they blocked the road. Like,
I love it. This is all horror movie tropes, right? And they're using the Zombeavers as a vehicle.
Yeah, the fact that funny. Not only beavers did this and thought to do this, but zombies thought to do this.
Right. They think they're like the Return to the Living Dead zombies where they sort of have some kind of thought process.
And I'm sure beavers are very intelligent animals.
I'm sure they are.
They might have even mentioned it when they're doing their research later.
They're super cute. I just love them. Okay.
So they're blocked, and I think Tommy gets out of the car to go check out what's going on, right?
Mm-hmm. He does.
And the beavers, well, I guess we don't see them right at first, maybe, but a tree falls and crushes Tommy.
Wait, you're hopping ahead.
Sorry. My notes are jumping ahead a little bit.
No, it's okay, but this is where they discover a truck that's also at the side of the road and it's abandoned.
Right.
And Tommy is like, let's raid the truck. And so he goes and grabs like guns. He's grabbing guns from the back of the truck and he's running them back to Zoe.
Yes.
Who's in the car. And he tells her, you need to go back to the cabin, take these weapons. I'm going to go on by foot and I'm going to try to get us help. And she's like, it's, 20 miles. He's like, whatever, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And so this is where Zoe gets in the car. She's with Buck. She's about to reverse. And all of a sudden, she hears a loud noise. And a tree now falls and crushes Tommy.
It crushes Tommy, but he looks like he might still be alive. We're not really sure.
Right.
It crushes him. And then it shows a shot of the beavers who have clearly chewed down this tree, purposely to fall on Tommy.
This, again, they're smart.
They're smart. Not only are they smart, but they're efficient, because I think that takes a long time for them to do.
I would think so, but I don't know. They got some sharp ass like teeth,
and
right?
they're zombies.
And they're zombies, so they're probably like extra strong. I don't know, but it is a great scene.
Yes, and then we see Smith.
Yes.
Pop up. Smith with a Y.
Smith with a Y.
Who,
get it right.
In my notes, still says creepy guy.
I mean, he does come across creepy because you really can't tell if Smith is a babyface or a heel. They really leave him ambiguous.
Yeah.
But he does say, like, get in here, get in the truck. We're gonna go back to the house.
Yeah. So they get in his truck. They're able to drive away.
Okay. And this conversation.
No, please.
Okay. So Smith starts explaining to Zoe. He calls it beaver fever.
Oh yeah.
And he starts explaining it's a parasite. I don't even want to say what it is because I'm not going to pronounce it right. I think it's called the
I saw that you had written it.
I don't even know how to pronounce it. It starts with a G, Giardi, something parasite. It's a real parasite. And that apparently at one point in time, I think it was discovered in the 70s, they thought that it originated from beavers. I don't know that they still do. But
they're using something that really exists to say this. That's what he thinks is causing whatever's going on with these beavers. We know it's toxic waste, but he thinks that it's this bacteria or
this
something.
Yes, he thinks it's this parasite. It's a real parasite that is in lakes and rivers. Again, why I do not with water.
No, legit. That's why lakes scare me. I know lakes aren't always stagnant, but I just think of still water and bacteria, and you hear crazy stories about brain-eating amoebas and things, and I know it's rare, but then it just freaks me out.
I would be the rarity. I swear to God, it just scares me. So he's explaining to her, and it's just so funny because he says beaver fever, and she looks at him and she goes, beaver fever? Like, as anyone would, right?
That just reminded me of when they first meet him, actually. I forgot to mention, one of the things he says, it just came to mind. They say something like, we're looking for beavers. I think he's the one that's like, yeah, who isn't? Or something like something along those lines where I was like, ew.
Yeah, he's gross, but we don't know if he's babyface or heel, right?
Yeah.
He does come to their aid though.
Yes.
So that says something.
At
right?
least here he does.
Yes. So we switch back to our crew and the two Sam, Mary, and Jen, and they're boarding up the walls.
The worst combo to be left together, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. The tension is high.
Yes.
And they're boarding up the doors, and this is very Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
And also Return of the Living Dead. It's kind of both.
Yeah.
And so they board up the walls, and everything's kind of whatever. And all... they start researching beavers.
Oh, yeah.
Where did they find these books?
For some reason, this cabin is stocked with encyclopedias and whatever other literature they have where they're doing extensive research on beavers and what beavers do. An important thing that they do note here is that beavers have the ability to tunnel.
They do. That doesn't really come into play very much. It does?
Yeah. Do you remember they come through the floor?
Oh my God, I totally forgot about that. You know, you're absolutely right. I completely forgot about that. Oh,
it's so funny, little things that each of us are like, oh yeah. We're writing down some notes and sometimes we miss the other things.
Yeah,
but
I love it.
Yeah, it's foreshadowing for sure.
You're totally right. I totally forgot about that. So they're researching about beavers, and you're right. The beavers know how to tunnel, and they also obviously can chew through wood.
Yeah.
And the girls start kind of arguing with each other and arguing with Sam, and Sam goes, we can't turn on each other. That's what the beavers would want.
He actually has a lot of good lines, especially in this setting.
He does. And he's also, I mean, listen, he's a dick, okay? However, he's not a good person. But in a crisis, like, Sam is, like, one of the only ones that's making, like, real sense in terms of, like, what to do about the beavers attacking the house.
Yeah.
Right? And so, because the beavers can chew through wood, they start kind of chewing through... the barricades, and Mary says something to the effect of like, well, you know, why are we putting up all this wood? Beavers can chew through wood. And Sam goes, well, you're right. I should just pack it with sheet metal.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really funny. Like,
because what else are you gonna use?
Yeah, he's basically saying, okay, well, let's go and get some. Like, you know what I mean? What do you mean? Yeah. This is all we've got. And as this is happening, Smith, Zoe, and Buck roll up in the truck, and there's kind of an argument between Jen, Mary, and Sam about if they're gonna open the doors for them. Yeah. And Sam is against it. He doesn't want them to let them in because he's like, well, what if they already turned? Like, blah, blah, blah. or not turn, but he's just not sure.
It's risky.
It's risky. But they do. They let them in, and they kind of at this point are now having like a little bit of a discussion of what the hell are they going to do?
Yeah.
Because they're trapped there. Mm-hmm. They are. The roads are blocked.
And how do they decide? Because what happens is Smith and his little gang, his little gaggle, they end up going to the neighbor's house,
The neighbor's house, because Tommy keeps trying the phone. The phones aren't working. There's, they're not sure what to do. And then Smith is like, well, what about the neighbors?
Right.
And Zoe's like, well, I'm coming with you. Yeah. And I'm bringing my footless friend with me.
Why are you bringing him? Like, I know they want to get to a hospital, but he has one foot. He's getting very, very pale as the movie goes on.
Yes.
Clearly losing a lot of blood.
Still has his hat on.
He's never going to take it off. I want to know what his hair looks like now.
I know. I'm kind of curious,
Are you hat fishing? What's going on?
Yeah, I want to know. But he's slow. He's slow, obviously. He's only got one foot.
Yeah.
And so, but I loved it because this was very Night of the Living Dead. I loved the scene.
Yeah.
Smith, Zoe, and Buck make their way to the neighbor's house because obviously they don't know that the Zombeavers have already been to the neighbor's house. Okay, so please explain what happens here when they get to the neighbor's house.
Are you talking about when Smith walks into the bedroom?
Well, they get to the neighbor's house and they're kind of just the lay of the land, right? They're trying to figure out what's going on, and they discover Mr. Gregerson is Dunzo.
Yeah.
He's dead.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, let's split up and explore the house a little bit.
Yeah.
And Smith walks upstairs and he opens up a bedroom door, and Mrs. Gregerson is dead on the bed, and he just opens it up and he goes, okay.
And just shuts the door. Yeah.
And if you watch the after credits, they do like a blooper reel, and they do that shot over and over with him saying different things.
Yeah.
And it's very, very funny.
And that's the one that they stuck with. Smith, I feel, starts to show a lot of personality here.
Yes.
He has a lot of great lines.
He does.
He clearly has a lot of knowledge. He knows the woods. He knows the land.
He's like a survivalist, a hunter, like...
He says he knows how to cauterize a leg, possibly.
Yeah. Yes,
But then he also later says he only saw it on TV or YouTube or whatever he says. Mm-hmm. But he clearly has a lot of experience. He's explaining all these details to Zoe about, like, you shouldn't have that foot directly on ice, actually, because you're going to kill the tissue. And she's like, oh, like, should I put it in a towel? And he's going through the logistics of that while eating a piece of chicken.
Yeah, it's so comical.
Like a chicken leg.
Like, he's explaining to her, like, well, you can't really use that foot anymore. I mean, we'd have to get to the hospital in like an hour, and that's not going to happen. Yeah. And then he kind of implies, like, that Buck's gonna die because he's gonna run out of blood and it's gonna get an infection. Like, he's kind of, and he says it so matter-of-factly, and he's like, do you want some of this chicken? Yeah. And then he keeps asking her, he's like, you sure you don't want any chicken? And he also suggests that they hunker down and they stay there that night. Yeah. So again, it's not really clear that he's a good or a bad guy. He's really neither. He just wants to survive too.
He seems like he's a survivalist. He's blunt. He's to the point. Yes. I think that he probably finds these kids useful to have around, whether it's for a decoy, just to have someone on hand so he's not by himself to fight off these Zombeavers, basically.
And honestly, I think he could go either way. I feel like he would be fine if they died. I don't really think he cares too much.
I could totally see him killing them without even flinching if he had to.
I agree with that 100%. And also, I want to point out the actor that plays Smith. His name is Rex Lynn. I mean, such an accomplished actor. He has a ton of credits, but he was in... Young Sheldon, Better Call Saul, and CSI Miami, but he's got a long list of credits. He's great.
I want to look up who he was in Better Call Saul because I watched that whole series.
I didn't watch the whole thing.
But I need to see what he looked like in that. But anyway.
Yeah, he's fantastic and he's a great actor. So you can really tell in these scenes where just his delivery is fantastic. Yes. Yeah. So he explains to Zoe, like,
we should stay.
We should probably stay. And then she goes, well, what about Buck? And he's like, well, I guess I could cauterize his leg for him. Yeah. And she's like, okay. And the setup for it is when he mentions that he's never actually done it. He saw it on TV or something, right? Yeah. I've seen it in a bunch of movies. Yeah. Loved that line. Yeah. I thought that was great because it's so true. It's like, what is the chances? What are the chances that you're going to run into someone that knows how to cauterize, like, limbs.
But I believed him.
I did
when
too.
He said, "Oh, I can do that." I'm like, "Of course he can. I'm sure he's done it before."
He's a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
And we did see him early in the movie, like, setting down bear traps and being very hunter-ish.
Yeah.
Also, I thought for sure that bear trap was going to come into play, and I was very disappointed that it didn't.
Yeah.
I was dying for someone to run and get caught on a bear trap.
I wonder if they were going to do that and it just didn't make it into the movie, because that definitely seems like something you would set up early and then use it later on.
A bear trap?
Yeah.
Like, whenever the bear trap, like, catches someone, honestly, it always makes me cringe so badly, but I love it. I think it's great.
Freaks me out. So, before they go to cauterize his leg, we cut back to see Jen, and she is walking into the room where Mary is sleeping.
Yeah, because they decide they're like, you know what, we're not going anywhere tonight. Let's all just get some sleep.
Yeah.
And Mary's laying in bed.
Mary's laying in bed. Jen appears in the doorway. Mm-hmm. Okay. Suddenly, the atmosphere has changed. Mm-hmm. Something's going on. Feels a little sexy.
It feels very sexual, yeah.
And Mary's like, "Jen, what are you doing in here?" And Jen has like this look in her eyes.
Like she's,
It's a hunger.
She's into it.
It's a hunger in her eyes.
Oh, yeah, hunger. That's good, yeah.
And that hunger could go either way, really. Mm-hmm. So she slowly approaches Mary and she starts climbing into bed.
And it's very sensual.
Yes.
Yeah.
She looks like she has her full wits about her.
Yeah.
Climbing on top of Mary. And Mary says something to her. I didn't write it down, but she says something that alludes to maybe she was aware that Jen liked her or something had happened between them, but that Mary didn't really feel that way about her. Right?
Well, it's kind of almost like she says, "Oh, you weren't mad that Sam and I kissed. You were mad that it was me.
You were mad that it was
I kissed him because you're into me." Like that seemed like the conversation.
It felt like a good twist in that moment. If that were true, we still don't really know.
We're not really sure, but they did foreshadow it early in the movie when Mary says to her, "Oh, you liked when we made out," and Jen was very like coy about it.
Yeah.
So now I'm wondering if they did have some sort of situation there.
Yeah, Mary wasn't that shocked that Jen was climbing on top of her.
I couldn't even tell because it kind of seemed like she was into it too.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Because she does say something she says that like, "Oh, you weren't mad about Sam. You were mad that it was me."
Yeah.
And then I thought she said something like, "I don't really feel that way." Something along those lines.
Maybe.
Right before.
Yes.
Jen starts transforming into a Zombeaver.
It's disgusting.
It's a great transformation.
Oh, it was really good.
They show a close-up of her face where her teeth get pushed out.
Oh, the teeth. Oh my god, the teeth falling out. Oh my god.
Her teeth get pushed out by beaver teeth to make room for the beaver teeth.
When the teeth fall out, it's disgusting.
It's gross.
Teeth are an issue for me.
Teeth and nails.
Oh, nails.
Things underneath nails.
When nails get pulled off. Oh my god. Yeah. Scary. Okay.
Eyeballs too. But so she starts transforming into a beaver. And like they show her face transform. I love this transformation.
It was very
cool.
The
whole scene I loved because I was like, oh, this is the thing between them. Oh, is this a twist? Oh shit, she's transformed. Like there was so much happening.
I did not expect her to transform in that moment at all. I was like,
we both thought this is the final girl.
We thought
Yeah.
I thought Jen was the final girl for sure.
Yeah. I mean, she was the quote-unquote innocent one out of all of them, really.
And she was really smart, and she was really, like, trepidatious and unsure of things, and I thought for sure she was going to be our gal.
Yeah, she gave off the stereotype, the cliche vibes.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Now, if I remember this correctly, was she kind of drooling?
I don't remember that exactly, but probably. I would imagine. I would imagine your teeth...
I just imagine it like a werewolf, but beaver.
I would imagine your teeth getting pushed out of your mouth.
That's so
probably
nasty.
Creates some type of drooling.
It was disgusting. It was a great transformation scene, and obviously she is now trying to attack Mary.
And I think Sam comes in and helps, right?
Mary gets away. Mary runs and she gets Sam, and Sam's like, "What is happening?"
Yeah. Then do we go back to Buck?
Yeah, this is kind of like it's hard to I don't want to like confuse myself and too much. It is important to explain that two things are happening at the same time and they keep cutting back and forth.
And I know the way I wrote it is probably the way it showed exactly in the movie, which is why I'm kind of like, and then we go here and then we go there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, two stories are happening at once.
Yes, exactly. I feel like that's important to explain.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. We cut back to
Buck and Smith, and they're about to cauterize his leg.
Yes. Oh, I was cringing. They
don't get a chance to because he transforms too. I mean, it's definitely, we know that anyone who's gotten bitten, scratched, anything, they're going to transform into a beaver.
We know that now for sure.
Which we knew knowing zombie movies anyway, but...
Good point.
You never know how they're going to go, but yes, now for sure. And he starts attacking Smith.
Yeah, and it's great.
He starts eating Smith's face.
Ripped his face off.
Yeah.
It was a very cool visual, and honestly, I did not expect him to rip his face off because Smith also knows some kind of fighting skills because he was fighting off Buck.
Yeah.
At first, so I was like, oh, okay, so Smith's got it down. He's gonna be fine. No.
He also had a gun.
Gets his face ripped off.
Yeah.
Zoe grabs the gun and she's like, I gotta shoot him, right?
Yeah.
She misses Buck and she hits Smith in the eye.
Yeah. Officially killing him, or so we think. And I mean, that made sense to me. If she's not familiar with using a gun, why would you be able to? Why would you have a good shot?
I wouldn't know what
she doesn't. She doesn't have a good shot at all.
No, I wouldn't. I don't know how to shoot a gun. Do you?
Not to where I'd probably be any help in a zombie apocalypse at this point.
No, same. Give me like an ice pick or something, you know?
Give me a machete.
Oh, yeah, that would work for you for sure. Yeah. And so Buck is eating Smith, and then he notices Zoe, and he starts chasing Zoe.
Yeah, she ends up going upstairs, right?
She does. She tries to get out the front door. She can't. She runs up the stairs, and Buck is like rabid. And I feel like we need to describe how these zombie people beavers look. They're kind of they kind of are like moving like Neanderthals a little bit, right?
Yeah, and so Buck, for example, still looks like Buck, but he has these beaver teeth now, and his eyes are almost like
like white,
completely
blue.
White.
Yeah,
I think it's probably CGI because it still looks like his eye, but you can see the white overlay basically.
Agreed. Yeah. And this is where I really began to love Zoe because she is running from Buck. She realizes there's nowhere to go, and she jumps through the window and lands down on the grass. It's pretty high up. It's a pretty high jump.
This one made sense to me. So in Dolls, for example, when Rosemary jumps out of the window, it bothers me.
It does, yeah, I know.
But I think it's because she dies. If she was jumping to escape and then she still lived and then the dolls killed her, maybe I would have been like, okay, yeah. So with Zoe, it doesn't bother me because she was jumping to escape, and she did escape.
Yes. I wonder if maybe in Dolls, Rosemary didn't realize that she was high up in a castle.
It's possible.
And
we don't know. We don't really know.
We don't know, but I agree with you. It was interesting that she was like, I'm sacrificing myself.
Yeah. Whereas if Zoe would have died here, I would have been like, oh. Yeah. So maybe it's just that, like, if, I don't know.
I liked that Zoe, you're really seeing Zoe's survival instincts. And I also appreciate that Zoe really tried her hardest with Buck. Like, she was not going to let him just bleed out, you know? And
that's true.
Okay, obviously, you should never let that happen to anyone ever anyways. But in a movie, I just appreciate it, especially because at the beginning, she seemed like such an...
Yeah.
Right?
She has layers. You already know. I love layers.
I appreciated it. Okay. So we're cutting back to Sam and Mary, and they're running, and the beavers have now started to break through and bite into the house and get into the house and up off the floor, and
they're tunneling now.
They're tunneling and they don't know what to do, so they kind of are trying to escape, and Mary asks Sam, were you bit? Have you been scratched?
Yeah.
And Sam is like, no, but it's very frantic. Yeah. So they run into a bathroom.
Yeah, they lock themselves in. And she's like, you need to take your shirt off. He does that.
Which I straight up appreciated that she was like, strip.
Yeah.
She's like, I want to know for sure that you haven't been scratched or bit. Take all your clothes off.
Yeah, so he ends up getting butt naked.
Minus his little boxer briefs he leaves on.
And then she has to as well. I mean, it's only fair.
He says, okay, your turn now.
Yeah.
And she does. She's like, okay. And she starts to take everything off.
Yeah.
And then they're just kind of looking at each other. And then it's like, oh. And they start making out.
Like
hot and heavy. And there's a part of me that really understands. It's like the zombie apocalypse. This might be it.
Okay,
you might die.
This is a concept I wanted to discuss with you because yes, there on one hand it's like this is the highest pressure situation either of you have undoubtedly ever experienced and may ever experience. So it's like why, like a part of me is like, why are you wasting your energy and why are you wasting your resources, whatever. Another part of me is like, yeah, this might be the last time you ever get to experience this for each other.
Yeah.
So like, why not go out like that? of all ways.
I agree. And I also feel like there also is that, like, it's kind of a forbidden love, sort of. There's that appeal.
That's true.
They, you know, I think that they're like, they really like each other. And this is really when they feel like, well, we're never going to be able to do this ever again because we're probably going to die.
And the tension is so high.
Yeah.
That tension could easily be not misinterpreted, but like misplaced into sexual energy.
Agreed.
Right?
Yes. Now, do I think they're f***ing stupid? Yeah, of course. But I'm just, but I also understand.
They're fucking stupid and they're either way.
No, but it's true, right? It's like, okay, on some level I understand.
Yeah. But also, like, imagine if they actually, because of course they get interrupted, but
sure.
if they didn't and you like go through with, you finish, what if like some people get very tired after? Now how are you going to fight off these zebras? Why did I just think of a zebra?
Rabid zebras.
I don't even know logically. Okay, anyway, sorry. I'm just going to move on. How are they going to fight these beavers if they're tired? If they're depleted? You know, they don't have electrolytes in there to replenish themselves.
I mean, what I would be so afraid. What if she gets pregnant in a zombie apocalypse?
And she survives? Yeah.
No,
I mean,
so scary.
Oh my gosh.
There's so many things about it that like freaks me out, but I'm just saying I kind of understand where they're coming from. It's wouldn't be me though.
Yeah. I say that now. I say that now.
I don't know. I don't think I would be turned on in that moment.
Sorry, I was trying to choke.
I don't think I'd be ready to rock in a beaver apocalypse. Not for me. Not for me. Okay, but this is my favorite scene in the entire movie. Oh, it's so great. So they're right, like it's pretty much they're about to like get it on, right? They're like right there, and then all of a sudden Jen emerges from the floor, and Sam is kind of like, "Oh God, don't worry, I've got this." She jumps up and bites his off,
just clean off his body,
like.
In the most satisfying comeuppance for someone who had been cheated on, I guess.
No, that's exactly what I thought. I literally in my notes wrote, "Go, Jen, go."
Side note, don't be violent, okay? No violence in real life.
Don't bite off somebody's penis, please.
But in Zombeavers' world, it's satisfying.
It was very satisfying. And I mean, she yanks him down, so his like gimmick, his gone gimmick, is down on the floor, and he's pancaked out, and she's just ripping him apart from the bottom. It's so satisfying because honestly, Sam is terrible. He was awful to Jen, and I feel like listen, I'm not gonna speak for all women, okay? But if you've been cheated on, and most of us have, and it's awful, there's a moment where you're just like, if I could cut this up, I would. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I feel like every girl has had that.
Had that thought. Don't do it.
Please don't do it. We don't actually want to do it. We're gonna just live vicariously through Jen here.
Yes. In a fictional world.
Yes. We're not advocating violence, please. But anywho.
In the meantime, oh my gosh. You know what it is? I want to keep saying zombie, and that's why I keep wanting to say zebra.
Just call them zebra. Just call them zebra.
I think it's the Z. What is wrong with me?
Just call them beavers. Just call them beavers.
The beavers.
The beavers.
Okay, a beaver bites an electrical cord while this is happening with Jen and Sam, catches fire, and then it looks like it's on like a track. Whatever puppet they use there, it looks like it's just like on a motor.
Wait, you're right. It actually happens before he gets his bit off.
It's like happening at the same time.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. I missed that.
It bites an electrical cord, catches on fire, goes up in flames, and then touches the curtain, and the curtains catch fire, and now the whole cabin is catching on fire.
Yeah, the house is caught on fire.
So Mary escapes at this point, and she gets in a truck.
She runs into Zoe, who's in the truck.
Driven by Zoe.
Yes. And she hops in.
Who I guess Zoe took Smith's truck, right?
She did, yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So she jumps in the truck.
Which, again, she was at the neighbor's house. So she drove back to the cabin to see if any of her friends were alive.
That's true.
Again, I think I'm Team Zoe.
Okay. They start driving away.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, we see it's not just beavers and it's not just people that are becoming zombies. There's a zombear. the bear that they saw earlier is now a zombie. Way more terrifying than a beaver.
It's so scary.
Because if beavers have this much power and strength and wit, what is the bear gonna do?
Oh god.
Because a bear without being a zombie, terrifying.
Yeah, agreed.
Go through the next scene because my note I feel like is jumping ahead.
Yeah.
I know that Jen comes out.
Yeah, Jen comes out of the house and she hops onto the truck.
Yes.
And they're sort of like, you know, Zoe's driving. She's trying to like fight off Jen and she slams on the brakes and Jen goes flying and the scene's so great. She just like, Zoe just stops for a second and then just proceeds moving forward and just rolls over Jen's head.
Yes. And okay, so this is, once again, there are layers here with Zoe, but she says, I never liked that bitch anyway.
That's why, I mean, I don't think they're actually friends.
They're definitely not.
Yeah.
They're definitely not.
Yeah.
But my thing was, okay, why are you going on a girl's trip with this girl who's not really your friend? Unless it's just because Mary was the link and she's like, I'm going to tolerate. But then she's, whatever.
Okay, wait, hold on. I have a theory.
Okay.
What if, and I could be totally wrong here, but what if Zoe caught wind that, like, Jen was into Mary, but Jen is also dating Sam? And what if, like, you know, she probably doesn't trust Jen?
Yeah, like,
Maybe?
Zoe is the mutual friend, or not mutual friend, but the friend of a friend, and she's, like, observing something kind of outside of her world
and
going on.
And something messy. Like, she sees that it's messy, and she sees that Mary's involved with it, so I wonder... She's showing how protective and loyal she is to her friends. So I wonder if there's a piece of her look at. I'm digging here, okay?
We're just
we don't know. Digging to try to find some good qualities about Zoe. But I wonder if maybe that's why she doesn't like her. Like she's just like, this chick is. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just reaching.
There are layers here.
I'm reaching. That's Sorry, all. Guys. Just we're discovering as we go.
But the car stops after she rolls over Jen's head. Okay, it runs out of gas or something. Whatever happens.
It doesn't run out of gas. She does, and then Smith appears, and Smith starts shooting.
Yeah.
And they have to like duck. And Smith is shooting, and he shoots at the front of the truck, and they slam into a tree.
Oh, right. So this is very interesting to me because Smith, first of all, the fact that a zombie's using a gun is funny to me.
It's hilarious.
But also, he got shot in the eye. Mm-hmm. So you would think that would have been a headshot, that his brain would be shot and he would be dead.
But he hadn't become a zombie at that point. Okay. That's just how he died.
Okay.
So he hasn't... So he hasn't been reanimated yet.
After reanimation, then you have to be shot in the head again. Apparently.
I guess so. That's the lore of the Zombeavers.
Okay. So.
So it's a whole stressful situation, but the truck slams into a tree.
And they have to continue on foot.
Not yet. So they
I'm gonna let you wrap this up because I feel like all my notes are like bullet points of what happens, and I'm forgetting the little details.
Okay, so when the car crashes or the truck crashes into the tree, believe it or not, even though the tree has like, even though the car has slammed into the tree, it still works. It still works. So she backs up, you know, and it's very tension filled, right? Mm-hmm. Like they don't know, is the car gonna start? Is the truck gonna start? It starts. They drive off. And then they reach the dam in the road.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if they kill Smith. I think they just get away from him. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they get to the dam, and it's again. Oh God, I really am Team Zoe at this point. So she's with Mary.
Yeah. They
get out of the truck. Zoe goes around and like grabs onto Mary to help her walk because Mary's like in shock, right? And she says, we have to continue by foot. Now, I have to mention that Zoe does have a giant axe in her hand.
Yes.
And she's kind of using it as a cane, you know, just to try to help her out.
Because she got hurt when she jumped out of the window.
She did, yeah, for sure. She jumped out of the window. She's a little beat up. She's bloody, and her clothes are all torn up. And when they approach the dam, Mary is to her right and the dam is to the left, and Zoe's got her arm around Mary, and Zoe sees Tommy underneath the tree as a zombie.
Yes.
Like kind of moving, and Mary's like, what's that? And Zoe's like, nothing, let's just keep going. So she doesn't let Mary see that Tommy has transformed.
Yeah.
And they start walking, and Zoe's really trying to like talk up Mary. Like she's like, we're gonna, you know, let's go, we're gonna get there, we're gonna do it together kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of... Zoe's asking Mary if she was bit or scratched.
Yes.
And Mary's saying no, I'm fine. And she's like, great. And Zoe just trusts that that's true. And as they start walking, all of a sudden Mary pulls a gun out on Zoe and points it right at her.
This shocked me.
It shocked me. I was
like,
too.
oh.
I did not expect it at all.
No, me neither.
No, I didn't.
But you find out, because at first I'm like, wait, what is about to happen? And it makes sense. It goes back to what she did with Sam. She thinks that maybe Zoe's been scratched, especially because of how injured she is.
Yeah, there's blood all over her.
Yes.
Her clothes are torn. She looks rough.
Yeah.
And you know, Zoe's pleading with her.
Yeah, she's like, I jumped out of a window. I love, sometimes in movies, you want the character to just say the obvious things so bad.
Like explain
why
what
didn't
happened.
you tell them this?
I hate
You
that.
could have explained it in 2 seconds, and I love that she does. She's like, is it about this? Like, I jumped out of a window. I'm just hurt.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you.
I like that too, because she's logical. She's like, no, let me explain this to you. And Mary does not believe her. She's like, stay back, stay back. And Zoe says, okay, but don't shoot me until I turn.
She says, you can't shoot me until I turn, or else you're a murderer.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
And it didn't seem like Mary at all was like, I think Mary was about to shoot her.
I really thought that she was going to.
I think she was going to.
And then this was a great part in the movie, because I also did not see this coming.
Huge twist.
And Mary starts immediately transforming.
It's her eyes like go white.
Yeah. And then she's like, oh, like
yeah. And Zoe's like, oh my God. Like Zoe's like totally shocked by this.
Yeah.
And Zoe, like the badass that she is.
She is a badass, I'll give her that.
She takes that axe and just like smashes it into Zoe.
Yeah, she just cracks her with it.
Into Mary. And then proceeds to smash into her. I wrote it down.
Oh.
Hold please. It's coming. It's coming. 9 times.
9 times.
It's such a drawn out scene where she's got the axe and she's just like, what would you say? What is the motion when you throw an axe into someone?
Swing
the axe?
Yeah.
Like if she's swinging the axe into her?
Yeah.
She's chopping her.
Yeah.
Chopping her like wood. Okay, like beaver. Okay, so and she does it 9 times. I mean, at this point, Mary is donezo.
Yeah, I would assume she got her head in that. In some of those swings. She bludgeons her for real.
Bludgeons,
And I wonder if, I mean, it had to have been because she was probably also pissed.
It's all that rage,
like,
right?
You just pulled a gun out on me.
Yeah.
You were going to kill me? And I was like here supporting you and just trusting that you haven't been scratched.
Yeah, and I think it's the trauma of everything that's happened, you know? Like she's all her friends are dead. She's just survived a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, it's that thing of where you're just like, I'm going to survive. And it's a survival instinct. You're just like, I'm not dying here. And I'm going to just, so you really feel that in that scene with her.
Yeah.
And then she starts to walk away and the music starts playing and you're like, okay, like we've got our final girl.
Yeah.
Was not expecting it.
I was not expecting her to be the final girl at all.
Not even a little bit. And
No.
I love that. I loved it because like a traditional horror movie with the, you know, the cliches, it would have been the sweet, innocent, whatever girl.
Yeah, and the one who's promiscuous and wants to have her tits out dies first.
Usually, right?
Yeah.
And I love that they flipped the script on that.
Yeah.
And it's not. She appears to be our final girl.
Yeah.
And as she's walking down the street and she's holding it's this beautiful shot where she's got the axe. And I think the actress that plays Zoe is fantastic. I think everybody in the film are really, really great. But she's kind of walking up the street and then she sees a car coming, a truck.
Yeah.
And she starts like she would, you know, flagging it down, you know, please stop, please stop. And we see the truck is driven by our friend Joseph, Bill Burr, and Luke, who's the passenger. And Luke casually says to Joseph, do you see the girl standing in the road?
The same way he did asking about the deer in the beginning.
Yes. And Joseph is texting while driving. By the way, he's texting on like a really old phone. It's like a flip phone. And he says, yeah, I see her. And Luke goes, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. And then
splat. And that's it.
And that's the end.
There's no final girl.
There's no final girl.
Unless
no
you
one
count
survives.
Bill and or what are their names? Luke and Joseph, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the beginnings of a zombie apocalypse.
Yes. Oh, this definitely is going to spread. And I love that they wrap that up because at first I thought the scene at the beginning with Bill Burr was so random. And then I'm like, oh, they're just explaining the toxic waste. Okay. I love that they wrapped it up in the ending. That was so satisfying to me.
It was for me too. I was not expecting it. I really thought that Zoe was our gal, that she survived. And to see her go out like that, I felt bad for her, but I also thought it was very poetic. I was like, this is great. It wraps it all up.
It was very poetic.
And then past that, in the post credits, you get to see all the blooper reels.
Yeah, they show a lot of bloopers, a lot of outtakes. And I think was this one of the movies where you said the cast got really close, right?
They did, yeah. Apparently, because they spent so much time together. Because the animatronics for the beavers and it took a lot of work. So there were a lot of times where the cast would just be the 4 of them, or however many there are, 5, 6 of them together, kind of by themselves.
Yeah.
And they got really close.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I saw an interview with them, and they were all talking about how they still stay in touch, and you can see it.
Yeah. That makes it feel so much more special. It's even more satisfying knowing that they were all getting along. Well, obviously you can't speak for everyone, but
sure.
For the most part, we're getting along, and that it was a special movie for them to film as well.
Yeah. I liked it. And I really feel like that translates.
Yeah.
You know?
And as silly as this concept is of zombie beavers, I think that it's such a fun story, and I think that they told it really well. There were so many moments that were logical to me, and that, even with a concept that some people might think is like too silly, I think it's so satisfying because the story made sense.
Yeah. I didn't expect to like this movie, and I had no idea what it was about.
Yeah.
Like, I knew there were like beavers, but
sure.
I went into this totally blind, and within like 10 minutes I was like, oh yeah, this is my kind of movie.
Yeah.
You know, anything with animatronics and puppets, I'm about it. I love it. I love that they didn't rely on CG, because I think if they relied on CG for the beavers, it would have felt like a sci-fi movie, and it didn't. I don't think it had that feel. It really did feel like a kind of spoof on classic horror movie tropes.
Yeah, zombie movies and
yeah. I thought it was great.
Yep.
If you guys liked it, or you didn't like it, or whatever, comment, talk to us. You can follow us on all of our social media accounts. We're on TikTok. What else are we on?
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We have an email. We should probably say Chainsaw Girls Pod.
Everything is at Chainsaw.
Chainsaw Girls Pod, yes, all of our socials.
Yes.
The Gmail is
at chainsawgirlspod@gmail.com. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review, because it really does help our podcast grow.
Yes.
And
okay, bye.